Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the webcast, Value-Driven Rewards and Recognition, Why Dangling a Carrot Isn't Enough, sponsored by Awardco. This webcast has been pre-approved for HRCI and SHRM credit. Please be sure to attend the complete webcast in order to receive your credits. You will receive an email from hr.com within 2 business days. It will include the certification credit information. You can also log into hr.com and go to your View My Credits page where you can see the credits that you have received. If you have any questions during the webcast today, click on Q&A in your webinar controls and type them in. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Sam Stroman.
Hi, everybody. We're super excited to be here with you today to talk about how to get more out of your recognition programs. I'm Sam Stroman, like Kathy said. Thanks for the introduction. And I am here to grease the wheels and make sure everything's going well. But it's my pleasure to share the stage here with Steve Sonnenberg. He is our CEO here at Awardco. And we've got a lot of awesome stuff to share with you, and I just couldn't be more excited to do that. But Steve, enough about me because they're not here to listen to me, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Sam. Yes, my name is Steve Sonnenberg, founder, CEO of Awardco. Very excited to present here today. A little bit about Awardco. We are an employee recognition platform. We like to give choice to the employee when it comes to rewards and recognition with no markups, things like that. Founded Awardco.com back in 2011, took it to market in about 2015 when we finalized our partnership with Amazon to kind of bring choice into the market. Now, the whole reason why I got involved with recognition is because of my father. He's an employee recognition consultant for the last 40 years. And I just grew up under watching him do enterprise type recognition for organizations out of the Chicago area with companies like McDonald's and Motorola. He even did the Chicago Bulls 6 championship rings. So that's when I fell in love with recognition. I grew up in the Jordan era, so I got to kind of shadow him during those times. So it's great to be with you. Just wanted to give you a little intro.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right in. We are going to be talking a lot about the benefits and the promise of recognition up front. And we're going to dive into exactly what the topic of this webinar is, which is how to get value-driven recognition and something that provides true ROI for your spend. And then we'll actually share a little bit of the best practices and stats that we're seeing with current clients. We get asked a lot, what's typical? What are other people doing? And sometimes that can be a little bit of a black box for people. So we'd like to share some of that with you later on. And then there's also a Q&A at the end. And so make sure to save those questions for that Q&A, and we can answer those either in the webinar itself, or we'll try to also jump on afterwards and answer those. But let's start at the very beginning. We are going to talk about recognition psychology to start, because we are all human beings and we all share certain needs. These needs were popularized by Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. You're seeing a pyramid at the top of your screen right now. And essentially what this hierarchy of needs states is that we have certain things that need to be fulfilled for us to move on to the next stage of needs. We have physiological needs at the bottom, which is we need to be fed, we need water, we need to take care of our biological needs, right? And then after that, we take care of our safety needs, make sure that we're not being hunted by woolly mammoths. And after that, we have social needs where we belong to a group of people in a community, in a village, and we need to have interaction with them. And then so on and so forth, you get up into esteem needs and self-actualization. And recognition psychology for us deals with how the receiver and the sender are benefited in those social, esteem, and self-actualization needs. And I'm actually going to turn it over to you, Steve, to give us a little bit more primer on the receiver and the giver.
Yeah, definitely. The receiver and the giver both benefit. And from a social side with the receiver, it meets the basic human need of belonging and esteem. And when it comes to value driven, it does instill a deeper sense of purpose and connection to the mission. It's one of the things I love about recognition. When you can align your values to your recognition programs, it connects you, and And you can do it frequently. Doesn't just have to be on a piece of paper and that's it. And you don't look at it again. So you want recognition to be frequent with your values. And then from a cognitive standpoint, over 50% improvement in performance that we've seen. And it's just, that's common sense. It makes sense. When someone says, hey, good job, you want to do it again. And then when it comes to the giver of recognition, it's like therapeutic communication. When I give, I feel good. It creates a connection with somebody. And so the more you give, the more you feel great. And it really helps improve the mood and self-esteem and lowering your stress. So those are the things that I see. I think the receiver, Sam, and the giver both benefit in the recognition. And so it needs to be done frequent to create just a great culture within your organization.
Right. And I think oftentimes we neglect the giver in this conversation, that the receiver is the one who gets all the benefits. But
Sure.
if you'll notice, down in the bottom right, we have this little MRI scan that actually is a little bit of a proof that we're talking about physiological changes in that the areas of the brain that manage stress and anxiety, there's reduced activity in those areas when recognition is given and received. So it's not just frou-frou psychology at play here, but it's an actual physiological reaction. And I've been a beneficiary, I should say, of this as an individual. We're going to talk through a little bit of those promises of rewards and recognition. But for me personally, it does increase engagement for me. It makes me more invested into the projects that I'm working on when somebody sees the good work that I'm doing. It strengthens my professional relationships. For those on my team, a thank you means a lot. And I love hearing thank you as well. And I feel as though the person that I'm working with trusts me. It obviously encourages innovation when you're pushed to try something new and do something different, and that is seen. That risk is lowered, and you want to try something new again. And then lastly, for me, boosts ownership and productivity, because nobody wants to be only told what to do. They want to be able to take ownership over projects. And recognition is validation for their ownership. Talk to us a little bit more, Steve, about the organization and the benefits they receive.
Yeah, huge benefits to an organization. It does attract and retain talent. We've all seen studies out there that people leave organizations because they just didn't feel appreciated or valued. And that was even ranked higher than their pay. So the other thing is for an organization, it builds a very positive culture and reinforces those desired behaviors. So I talk about it all the time, but one of my favorite recognition programs is recognition programs based on your own core values of your organization. To reinforce those values really engages the the employee. And then it does deepen the employee loyalty. Conversing with Deloitte the other day, they said something great, and that really speaks to the loyalty part. They say great experiences build connection, and strong connections create loyalty, and loyalty drives business results. And so in the end here, we're looking to engage with our employees. We're looking to create an unbelievable experience for them at the workplace. And reinforce our desired behaviors. And then we're looking to just deepen that loyalty. When you have loyal employees, it delivers results. And so the benefit is absolutely huge to an organization.
Awesome. And those benefits are compounded in today's market, right? We've received a ton of questions about how COVID and remote work and dispersed teams, how those are affected by recognition. Talk to us about Awardco's philosophy on this, Steve.
Yeah. The technology is key here. You have to establish a culture of innovation to connect people digitally in a way that's traditionally in person. So that's extremely important. Recognizing in your employees that are remote, it does minimize isolation and creates that community. And it does project stability and positivity and like business as usual. I know for me, it was in April, we're trying to figure out when are we going back to work, and everyone's working at home. And, here I am, the CEO, founder of Awardco, and I just had a lot of anxiety working from home. I just was just unsure, like, do my employees know I'm working hard? I'm not getting any recognition at the time, it was just, I felt isolated. And so we made a big push at Awardco to recognize often, and to make a note on your calendar to say, hey, at the end of the day, think of a couple of people that you can recognize. And that really helped the culture here at Awardco. And I know it's helped a lot of organizations that have done something similar. And it also offers support and motivation, because as recognition increased when we were remote, I started feeling better. I was excited to get in my office and start working. But when there's silence for a long period of time and you're not hearing positive things, you start getting anxiety, and we're reading that all the time now. Mm-hmm. So technology is key here. And one thing to note here, Sam, is where communication lives, recognition must be there as well. And what I mean by that is, we use Slack here to communicate. Other people use Microsoft Teams or Yammer. There's a ton of different communication apps that people use. But being able to recognize there within that application is extremely important. Not just to say, I mean, we do this all the time. I say, hey, Sam, great job. I appreciate you. And then it eventually gets lost in the way. But I love using like an app where you can do like a /recognize, and then you can recognize based on your values. So you can use your everyday communication tools to recognize, I think is key, and really makes it easy to create that culture for remote teams. So I'm a big proponent of where communication lives, recognition needs to be there.
Right. Yeah. It's in this crazy time that we're all in, just try changing behaviors that are already ingrained, right? Like your team's already in those communication tools all the time. So, if you need to recognize, let's use what they already use. And one thing that stood out to me when you were talking is the third bullet point for projecting stability and positivity and business as usual. It connected the dots for me of Maslow's hierarchy, right? If I'm a member of a team and we're recognizing good work, I know that we're not only surviving. I know that we're not worried about the lower level needs, and it projects this confidence that, hey, we're worried about improving, not just surviving during these times. So anyway, it's a powerful tool, and remote work has made recognition even more important. So we have all of these amazing benefits, and we can finish the webinar right now because everybody understands recognition is awesome and we're all going to go forward. Obviously, that's not the case. There are some issues. There are things that recognition isn't delivering on its stated promise. And these are just some stats from Gallup and other surveys out there. We all understand recognition is important, but yet 1 in 3 people are engaged. 21% feel motivated to do outstanding work. People who are not recognized adequately are 2 times as likely to quit. 40% would say they would work harder if recognized more often. So somewhere between the promise of recognition and actual experience, there's a disconnect there. And that's what we're going to talk about today. That's the whole point of us being here. And Steve, what does this all mean?
Yeah. Well, the question is, are you just dangling carrots, right? And this is, dangling carrots isn't a bad thing though. You're going to get where you want to go as long as you have carrots, but just not so quickly. So Sam, I don't know if have you ridden a donkey before, Sam?
I rode a donkey once. We're in Utah, and we love our national parks here. We've got Zion and Canyonlands and Arches. And if you haven't been, go. They're amazing. But one of the lesser known parks that people go to is Bryce Canyon. And I actually rode a donkey through Bryce Canyon, a little pack mule. And it's beautiful. Red rock, these spires that are called hoodoos everywhere. It's amazing. But I was on a donkey, and I missed the instruction of how to get the donkey to move quicker. So there was a line of donkeys there. I'm there, and I needed to catch up to the group, and I couldn't, and I was holding everyone back. True story. I was like, how do I do that? Well, this donkey you had to kick in the haunches to move forward. I just didn't hear that. So I was, trying to get it to go, and it wasn't. So,
well, and that's the thing. I mean, dangling a carrot's not a bad thing. You can go there, and you're right. The donkey, it's slow, right?
I got there.
You got there, but there's just so much more we can do than just dangling a carrot. And so really, how can you tell if you're just dangling carrots? you want to ask yourself these questions. And I kind of threw some questions down because you want to do so much more than that. And unfortunately, so many companies are just doing what you're seeing here on the screen. So question number one, is your organization's recognition just momentary? Second question, do we have an organizational strategy to your recognition? So many people I talk to just do things because they've always done them. They haven't really sat down to create the why. Why are we doing this? What's the strategy behind this? Third question, is your reward strategy a one size fits all? Everyone gets a carrot, whether they like it or not. I see that all the time. Here's a bunch of things that you can have for your award, and there's no choice there, okay? The next question, do we see progress as an organization only as long as we have the reward? And the last question, does your recognition program feel forced, obligatory, or process heavy? First, you have to, grab the carrot, and then you have to tie it to the end. Or another example to illustrate this in work life is you can recognize someone, but then it has to go through an approval process to another approval process to another approval process. It's just hard to recognize. Recognition doesn't work when it's complicated. So anyways, those are just questions I want you to think about to say, are you just dangling carrots? And should you do more?
Right. And really, is there a better way? How can we do something different than just dangling carrots? Right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. And there definitely is. I mean, wouldn't it be better if each of our organization's forward momentum came from within each individual? And wouldn't it be great if your organization's forward momentum was consistent and self-propelling? And wouldn't it just be amazing? Wouldn't it be awesome if you could fill the tank of your organization with your values, and your people will drive you wherever you want to go? Now, I know many of you probably seen this in the news, but this is the new Ford Bronco. I'm not a car guy, but this is a great looking vehicle, and I love this. And that's just the imagery I wanted to portray. There's just a better way to get there. And I love that. If you can just put in your tank the values of your organization, your employees will take you there. Wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, there is definitely a better way that we want to talk about. No, and Ford didn't pay for this. This isn't an advertisement, but this is just a sweet car, and wanted to kind of illustrate that point.
Right. So
and the thing, Sam, is how do you go from carrots to internal combustion, from donkey to Bronco? I mean, that's the question. That's what I want everyone to be thinking about, and really reimagine the recognition. That's what we're trying to do, especially during times like this.
Awesome. Spoiler alert, the way you do that is value-driven rewards and recognition. That's why we're here, right? We have a concept here at Awardco that we're developing called the value cycle. And we really feel strongly that this really fills in that missing piece of the puzzle as to why maybe an individual carrot or a momentary recognition doesn't have the power that it could. Steve, please introduce us to this concept of the value cycle.
The value cycle. I love this, Sam. This is recognition doesn't need to be overcomplicated. So let me just illustrate this real quick. First, the employee demonstrates the value. Okay, that's the first thing that goes on. Then the value is recognized by a manager or a peer. And then the employee is rewarded with real value to match the value demonstrated. Okay, so that's the cycle there. So there are three ways value is communicated in this cycle. The desired value is shown. Okay, then the desired value is seen and recognized. Then the value is felt by the employee in the form of a reward. And just to illustrate this a little with just an example, last night I was coaching my son. He's a sixth grader. His name's Cohen, and he's playing basketball. And I'm the assistant coach, and our little team kind of gets together. We're able to do that here, and we're located in Utah. And our head coach is very stern, and is a great coach, but very stern. But my son, he's lacked confidence a little bit. And yesterday, he just had one of the best practices. He was driving to the hoop. He was laying it up and he was just doing a great job. And so he was putting forth the effort. And we were recognizing him along the way, saying, good job, good job. But when we went home that night, just last night, you know, my family's waiting. It was about 9:30 at night. And I said, hey, guys, guess what? You should have seen Cohen today. He just killed it. And I rattled off all the great things he did. And he felt that. You just saw his face. He was just like on cloud nine. And then you know what he said? He said, Dad, let's go play basketball tomorrow morning, which was this morning. And so it's just a simple example. Recognition does not need to be overcomplicated. This is the value cycle that the engine that powers your culture. And understanding this is so vital just to moving forward and creating that incredible culture. So Sam, I just wanted to, hopefully I hit the points there, but I just love this imagery here.
Right. And you can see the power that where we feel like a lot of recognition programs die, and we'll go into this later, is that reward isn't really felt, or it's not felt in the way that was desired by the company. And so we don't have that cycle. We don't have that self-perpetuating motion because a piece of it has been left out. We'll go into it a little bit more here in a little bit. But we're going to focus on step one up at the top for now, which is how that value is demonstrated. But there is technically a pre-step there. To have values demonstrated by employees, they need to be known first, right? Where do we start, Steve?
Yeah, well, first you got to define your values, who you are as an organization. Now, this can be the most important, exciting step in building a value-driven rewards and recognition program. But make sure your values, are defined and are truly values of your organization.
I love
and they
this.
need to be.
I'm going to interrupt and say I love these.
Go ahead.
You and I have these all the time. Who are we? What do we stand for? Those are values that every company needs to have.
And you need to be aspirational, but need to be realistic.
Right.
You're right, Sam. I mean, we talk about this all the time because values are so important to hear for us at Awardco, because it's that connection that it gives, to our employees, to the company. And some of the most common values that we've seen in our customers are excellence, flexibility, innovation, customer service, determination, and going above and beyond. Well, I'm customer obsessed. I love when I see us internally here going above and beyond and working with our customers and learning from them. But those are the most common that we've seen within Awardco. And some of the values that we're seeing pop up because of this pandemic are positivity, flexibility, communication, and remote wellness. Those are just things that I thought was interesting, new values that are popping up. And so think about, do you need to fine tune your values a little bit and align them because of what's been happening the last few months? And then when it comes to communicate your values, this is the baseline is just to put these words on a wall. Okay, that's the baseline, bare minimum. But you want to talk about the values in your teams. You want to bring them up in your one-on-ones. You want to reference values in company meetings. Every Tuesday, we have a breakfast, Sam, with the whole company, and we talk about these values. They're extremely important to us, and then we recognize based on those values. So the baseline, words on a wall, but make them intertwine throughout your whole company in different ways through like recognition.
Right.
And then lastly here, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think everybody's been a part of an onboarding process where you hear these values and they say, we stand for this, we stand for that. And then those values aren't mentioned again in the next 6 months, 9 months, a year. And they're just they are just words on a wall, and it's obvious from day one. We have to do better than that.
Yeah. Well, Sam, this. We track these values. People are able to today to see an employee hit one of our values, write about it, recognize that individual, and then I'm able to go in there and just click on a value and see all these stories that support that value. And then in those meetings, I'm able to say, hey, guess what? So Sam, thanks for doing this. Listen to this. I didn't even know this happened, and I reinforce that value. So anyways, I love, going back to what I've said from the beginning, I love value-based recognition. And then lastly here, exemplify. It does all start with the leaders. Talking with Deloitte again a week or so ago, I was shocked. There was a survey done where they were talking about their support channels. and 91% was friends and family, and then 67% was peers and colleagues, and further down the line was the direct manager. They were 58%. So I thought that was very interesting. This is a time right now for the managers to step up and to lead and to recognize. And I thought that was just an interesting study that just came to mind that I wanted to share. But leaders, it all starts with the leaders.
Right. And we're going to go into some tactics on how to engage managers more. In fact, we'll bring it up here on this next slide, but it does start with leadership. And sometimes the problem is getting leaders to buy in as well. But what you're getting to, Steve, and what we've kind of peppered throughout up till this point is that obviously with value-driven recognition programs, you want to have a one-to-one correlation of reward, value to reward. And the way we've seen that work most is to have targeted recognition programs for those values, not just for the values on the wall, but also for other things that you're seeing here. Talk us through, these are just 5 examples of the ways our clients are using our programs, and anyone can use programs.
Yeah. Well, you want to reimagine recognition, right? But these are very common that we see here. But spot recognition, so important in the moment, pats on the back, reinforce those company values. Manager spotlight, provide managers opportunities to lead by example. I mean, we've even seen people create programs that are just spotlighting managers or encouraging them to do various behavior activities so they recognize and more people, more of their peers, and they're recognizing those managers. I thought that's an interesting thing we've been seeing. Milestone recognition, onboarding, anniversaries. That's a really important. And I think a lot of people forget the onboarding part. Everyone does the service anniversaries, but then they get caught up in the whole 5, 10, 15, and it should be more frequent. But we'll talk a little bit more on that. Life events is big. Did someone, was there a wedding? Was there an adoption or a newborn come into the family? Recognize those life events to bring the family into those celebrations. And then remote work. Boost remote work productivity by spotlighting just some new work from home values that you might be generating. So those are just values programs that we've seen that are the most common here at Awardco. And you can do this, do it all in one application. Wherever you're recognizing, make it easy. And I love, going back to what I said earlier, technology is key here. Be able to value everything you see here on a communication app, for example. And there's ways you can do that.
Right. Awesome stuff there. So moving on to the next phase of recognizing on that value cycle. We've got a few questions and some comments in the chat about, well, yeah, you need to recognize though that not everybody's the same. And hopefully you're hearing a theme in our presentation today that's exactly right. No 2 people are the same, and people like to be recognized in different ways. And here are just 7 P's to reach your people. I'm not going to read each of them, but there's definitely different ways of giving public or private praise. Personal praise. There's also physical awards that you can give people, and some people that really resonates with. Some people couldn't care less for a physical award. Then obviously there's peer and social recognition. And then on the more HR side of things, we have performance and pay, meaning these are institutional mechanisms that you use throughout the year or annually to review and evaluate people's performance and give them promotions. That is a form of recognition in and of itself. And how your teams, how your employees respond to each of these is completely different. And so really this puts the onus on leadership again. Your leaders need to find out how their teams want to be recognized. And we've been developing these over the last few months. You may have seen these in maybe some other content that we've shown, but Steve, give us a primer on this.
Yeah, there's definitely recognition personas. So look at this. Who are you? Are you shy Sharon, who likes private notes and encouragement and dislikes the public attention? Or are you gregarious Greg, who likes public awards and attention, right? Dislikes the private recognition? Or Material Mike. I think we all have a little bit of Material Mike, rewards for driving value. I know one of the things that recently that I got, because we use our own application, was I was able to get one of those projectors that you can hold in your hand. And that was a great thing over the pandemic, as my kids are home, to be able to watch movies on the wall. So anyways, that was, it engaged me. I loved that. Or heartfelt Hannah. Do you like the authentic peer recognition and dislike the competition and external incentives? So everyone has a different recognition persona. And so who are you? And I think it's so important for managers to understand the people that roll up to them. Who are they? And it's a question that you should know. And if you don't, get that in your one-on-ones, learn and ask. And you don't have to ask who you are, but you can, with probing questions, you can get an idea what kind of persona they are. And just Sam, for me, I'm shy Steve, right? We'll get into that, but I think we have a poll. We want to ask everyone kind of who they are.
Yeah. So you should be seeing something pop up on your screen that is a poll question for which recognition persona fits your personality best. Let us know while you're thinking about it. Yeah. What's that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, Sam, you were asking me the other day, like, what do you think you are? And I'm definitely, it's funny. I'm definitely a shy Sharon. Mm-hmm. Or shy Steve. It fits, right? Because I'm the one that goes on Facebook and says, hey, get rid of my birthday. I don't want everyone telling me happy birthday and people I don't ever talk to. And I just don't care. And so I'm a little bit of that in me. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. How about you, Sam?
I have to admit, I'm a little bit more heartfelt Hannah. I don't know. I think we're all a little of these, right? We're all a little bit. I'd love to get, a present or some type of recognition that's material, but honestly, a heartfelt thank you. I see you. I recognize you from somebody privately who matters. That does everything for me. So, I think I might actually just say heartfelt Hannah. And hey, you should be seeing the poll results there. Good news for everyone here. It looks like heartfelt Hannah is 46%, followed by shy Sharon, and then material Mike and gregarious Greg. Why do I say good news here? Because later on, we're going to go through some trends and some stats for both monetary and non-monetary recognition. But again, the good news for everybody is heartfelt Hannah won, maybe not in a landslide, but that means that most everyone wants to just feel recognized, and that monetary or non-monetary may not factor in as much as we thought. Because we hear that a lot. How do I do this without a huge budget? And we'll get to that.
Yeah, for sure.
You probably saw the sneak peek of a slide when I went forward a little bit too early, but we did analyze some numbers. I'm going to have Steve go over some of those numbers because people want to know what's typical, what's happening in the industry. What do I define as success for my company, and recognition numbers and all that good stuff. So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. We have millions of users, and we looked at our 2019 numbers, and Awardco clients recognize their employees. They're up 8 times a year on average. Okay. And the average recognition sent per client was 2,498. Now, some of that's coming from companies that have 200 employees. So they're doing very well. We do have some enterprise clients that have hundreds of thousands of users, and they're doing quite well as well. In fact, we work with a very large financial institution, and analyzing their numbers, they recognize every 15 seconds on the platform. So we love seeing that, and that's an uptick since March. So and some of the most popular programs that we've seen are the spot recognition programs, which I love tying to like a value-based recognition. So if your value is customer obsession, well, then your employees are going to look for ways to be customer obsessed while their employees are recognizing for that. So I love those type of programs. Birthdays, service awards, holidays, wellness. I mean, those are other programs as well that we've seen that are really popular. Now, the recognition frequency and program count is trending up. So we love seeing that. I always wondered, okay, we went home March, how's this going to work? How is Awardco going to work? We're a fast growing startup. And it was just awesome to see that the numbers were increasing. Our servers were slammed more people are on the application. So that was an awesome trend to see.
Right. Awesome. So that's the recognized side of things. And I think everybody's familiar with those two areas here. And the reward section, everybody is familiar with that as well. But we're going to dive a little bit more into that right now. And really what we're trying to drive home here as a point is that feeling valued comes from actual value being received. And again, hey, let's not confuse material. Somebody made the point in the chat, material is not all about the money. You're right. There's lots of other ways to do that, but they have this employee has shown value to the company and shown the values that that was intended. They need to feel an equal amount of value given to them, whether monetary or non, or that value gets left by the wayside, right? They aren't motivated to do it again or to make that value intrinsic. They don't internalize that. Steve, didn't you have some conversations? Was it with Deloitte, or you were mentioning something earlier about your experience with this?
For sure. Yeah, no, totally. This is, some of the things that we've seen, with this effective reward value, where feeling valued comes from receiving the actual value. Some of the things, Sam, is, that we've seen is I felt generally appreciated, right? The organization stepped up big time, and my time and effort was rewarded. And there was something I saw on LinkedIn, actually. I don't think it was Deloitte, it was actually LinkedIn, where someone, their sibling just passed away. It was a heartfelt message on LinkedIn. It was extremely sad. And their organization took the time to send them flowers, a heartfelt note. And literally that employee shared that experience and was literally in tears at the door to a stranger that he didn't even know who was delivering everything. And so it was just that person, the organization stepped up big time, and that person felt so appreciative of their organization and shared it publicly. And so that cycle of that company really caring and recognizing the issue that occurred and the reward of just saying, hey, we really care about you and we're so sorry about this. And so it was interesting to think about that cycle and the organization apply that. And that went really well. So I saw that, it made me think of this, Sam. So that was one of the things we talked about earlier.
Fantastic. And really that what's different again with every single employee and how they feel valued from the reward or the recognition that they've received. It's different for each person, but one thing that can completely kind of demolish the process is if that person doesn't feel rewarded by what they've been given. And I think we've all been there. We can give examples of it, but let's go over some common problems with the reward experience itself that can cheapen the reward and just throw it out the window. For
sure. The first thing, Sam, here is just offer choice. Give employees the power to choose their own reward. That's extremely important to show value. I've talked to many organizations where they weren't given that choice and they were just like, this didn't do it for me. That cycle, when it got to the reward, just fell off and broke. So choice is extremely important. Second thing is to avoid markups. Ensure the employees receive dollar for dollar value of the recognition. This is a big deal. You want to recognize your employees, not your vendors. So you want dollar for dollar going into that recognition for the employee. A good example, one of our customers is TaylorMade Golf. Great organization, and they were doing a service anniversary program, and they had a limited selection of options for their reward that they were giving. And part of that was their own TaylorMade golf clubs that had a 3 times markup in that catalog. So when that employee, here the organization is trying to do a good thing, but then when they kind of presented with their choices, it just totally derailed the whole thing. So you definitely want to avoid those markups. And, that was just something that we saw that we wanted to kind of share because a lot of organizations are seeing that.
Nothing says thank you like an overpriced Google device or something like that, right? Hey, I can see this on Amazon and it's $100. Why am I paying $300 for this thing?
Yeah. Well, and Sam, a lot of people don't even they don't take the time to look at that, when they're invoiced. And so from where they're getting the item. So that's extremely important. Choice, avoid markups. Those are two things that don't cheapen the award. 3, be inclusive. Include options for each employee to be rewarded and feel valued. I mean, if you're a global organization, don't just say, hey, this is for the United States. You need to find a application that encompasses everyone in the whole organization that can fit. So that's extremely important as well. So everyone can be part of it. And 4 is be quick and convenient. Get rewards to high performers fast and no cost to them. This is extremely important. Get it to them fast. And so that's why I go back to technology is key. What application are you using to reward and recognize, and what tools are enhancing that? So you want to be really quick in that as well. And, I kind of shared that service award experience. That's one thing that we see all the time where people are being rewarded for their anniversary, and then they are recognized by their peers, which is great. But then that award, it's almost like throw out the award. If you're going to offer limited choice and no markups, don't do that, because you just did a disservice to all your employees, because now they feel like this isn't worth it. I mean, that's why a lot of organizations are reaching out and they're saying, hey, you know what, our recognition score is so low. It's because of things like that. You've got to reinvent your rewards and recognition program. You've got to offer choice. You've got to avoid those markups. Be inclusive. Be quick and convenient. Use technology to help you. There's so many great resources out there. So just don't cheapen it.
Quick story time for me. I swear it won't take too long, but I have experience with a reward not matching what I had intended. I got married a while ago and felt like that was a step in becoming an adult, right? And starting to really treat my life seriously. And in the first birthday with my wife, I thought, well, what do adults do? They get each other presents that are useful. They don't do froofy presents. They do useful presents. We were college students at the time and we didn't have a lot of money. So we need to make sure our money, works and is effective. So I got her a DVD player. And for the last 17 years, I've heard about how disappointed she was in getting a DVD player for her birthday. And I had to take the walk of shame back to the store and to take that back. And I basically was like, look, I'm new at this. Let's go get you something you actually want. And I learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, that's a good story, Sam. I think we've all been there. And just looking, I mean, some Q&As are kind of piling in, but just another point to bring on this is, how do you provide the same value to all your employees, right? We're a points-based system, so we just basically give them a points-based monetary amount, and then we can specifically say you have to pick a tangible product from Amazon, something like that. So that's how we do it. And so every experience is different where you are in the world. It might be a little bit different experience as someone in the Philippines. So we have different offerings out there, but it's kind of, you give them a bucket of points and you can follow various tax guidelines and have them choose something tangible. So we do it based on the points. Right.
And these are hallmarks of any modern recognition program.
Sure.
We feel whoever you use, whatever solution you go with, I think these are things that you would want to keep in mind.
For sure.
And then, we're going to finish up here in the next few minutes, but we did want to give you some benchmarks, some, what is typical type values. Again, focusing on these are monetary values, but non-monetary can have just as big of impact depending on how you do it.
Yeah. And just focus at the bottom there. People always ask, well, what should I do? People are always asking that budget question. What should I set aside? And so these are just some great benchmarks that we've seen to be very effective. Spot recognition programs, $100 to $200 per employee to budget. Onboarding, $25 to $50. Some people do non-monetary, it's totally fine. But this is kind of average what we've seen to kind of give them experience to introduce them into we're a company that recognizes and rewards. Holiday program, $50 to $100. Micro recognition, there's organizations that do the micro recognition. Each value is a point or a dollar or two. And so we've seen that 1 to 3 range. And then wellness programs. This is interesting. I want people to think about, there's another conversation I had with a large organization and a consulting firm was around this wellness. Like people are working from home now. It's a little bit different. How are they doing? What can you do to support their wellness program? So we're seeing companies set aside a budget of money to say, here's a catalog of options that you can get things to work out at home. Here's some weights, here's some jump rope. Here are just the things that we think that you would value. And so we've seen a $250 to $400 budget per employee on that. So a lot of people are really valuing the wellness program. So those are typical numbers that we see. Just kind of give everyone a benchmark with what's going on out there.
Awesome. I'm gonna advance a couple slides here and just do these a little bit quickly so we can wrap up on time. But service awards, I think most people on the call today understand that those are important, but often they're focusing on those big milestones of 3-year, 5-year, 10-year. And as you look at this slide, the average tenure for most people are 2 to 3 years. So they may not even get to that 3-year mark when you start giving service awards. So really every year should be celebrated. So many people start a job and finish a job without ever experiencing a reward. And that's a failure, especially considering that often people just want to be noticed, again, non-monetarily. And then we have a little bit, a graph that shows what the typical amounts are for service anniversaries amongst our clients. And these might actually have a little bit more of Awardco's recommendations in them. Like if most people are going to get to a 1 year, let's throw some $50 in there, but these grow with time. There is no one size fits all for these. And so this should just be one piece of your recognition pie, and the value that you give to your employees. And then the last slide I'm going to kind of take over on is that we understand, and Awardco understands that this can be a lot to ask of companies that are just starting out. And it's a very hard sell with executive team members to say, hey, we're going to set aside all this money for recognition. But really, if you can set aside 1% of total budget for payroll as a reward budget, that's a great start. And that is an easier conversation to have than, well, we're gonna blow out everyone's service anniversaries to a really big figure. It really does provide that ROI that you're looking for in the form of value-driven recognition. And that's what we're going through to here. Steve, if you want to drive this point home.
Definitely. This is the values become behavior, the behavior becomes culture. This is extremely important. And I've illustrated this in just simple examples with my son, shared examples of service anniversaries, how that's, they demonstrated their what they've done, they get recognized, and they kind of falls off when it's just not the reward that is meaningful to them. So, this is something that if you really want to help your organization and really make it become part of recognition, part of your culture, you got to understand this value cycle, and you got to keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate recognition. Okay, it needs to be simple. It needs to just be a few clicks, and for people to see it, and the reward to either be felt, whether it's through monetary or non-monetary, and just additional final thoughts here is unorganized recognition is like dangling carrots. That's a big thing right now. People don't know why they're doing it. Because it's what they've been doing for a long time. Aligning on values and communicate and exemplify values from the top down are extremely important. So develop those values and communicate and exemplify them from the top down. Make it part of your rewards and recognition programs, okay? And then coach managers to learn how their team wants to be recognized, okay? Coach them. There's so much you can do when it comes to that. And that's a whole another topic. There's other things that we're thinking about internally is allowing people to, when they do kind of poll surveys and they say what went well in the week, and it goes over to the manager, that gives managers tips and ideas of how they can recognize their employees. Next thing is give as much value as the organization is receiving. Employees will feel valued if their reward experience isn't cheapened. And just recognize and reward often and be consistent. That's extremely important, and talk about it. With Awardco, we have 3 goals, right? We want to focus on new business revenue. We want to be customer obsessed and take care of our customers, and we want to recognize often. It's part of the top. It's part of what we value. And so we actually look at how much we've recognized based on what we did last month. We actually look at that metric. So it helps us to make sure we're rewarding often and we're being consistent. And if not, I'll talk about it a little bit more. I'll talk about it in our stand-up meetings and talk to the managers. But that's how you build a culture of value-driven recognition. So these are just some insights that we wanted to share with you. Sam, I don't know if there's anything you want to fill in there, but those are just some of the final thoughts that I had.
No, I think that's great. Hopefully we've shared a lot of good content here, and you've had some ideas stirred in your mind as to what takeaways you can take to your teams, to your organizations, to stir more discussion. This is going to continue to be a discussion for you, I'm sure, in your organizations, as well as in executive councils and things like that. But we do have a Q&A period here. I know we're nearing the end of our hour, but I did want to hit a few questions that we've seen pop up. I'm going to throw these to you, Steve. So here's a question that popped up. How can you recognize high performers with these programs and not discourage your average worker?
Yeah, good question, Sam. Well, work-life events are a great way to ensure that all employees are noticed and valued. That's kind of what comes to mind, just work-life events. Top performers are always going to get more recognition. That's the point, right? I mean, that's just what we've seen. But if birthdays, service anniversaries, life events are celebrated, that goes a long way and sprinkles in lots of different channels of recognition. So that's what kind of comes to mind there.
Yeah, there's a kind of a baseline. Everybody has a birthday, right? Everybody has onboarding. Everybody has certain milestones, and those should be taken advantage of therefore. Okay, question number 2. We did get several questions like this, so I kind of lumped them in together. But when your company doesn't have money to give employees, what other ways can you compensate employees?
All right, well, the good news is that most people are a combination of recognition personas, okay? In that there's a little bit of, heartfelt Hannah in all of us. And studies show that non-monetary recognition can achieve many of the same goals as just monetary. And so it's just a start, right? There's just lots of things you can do there. Awesome.
A couple more questions that have popped up here. Let me just scroll my little widget. This is a little bit more about Awardco, so we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but somebody's mentioned, hey, aren't the markups we're talking about usually actualized in maybe high monthly fees for using certain platforms? Talk to people maybe in a few sentences as to, one model versus the other, the redemption versus maybe a license fee. Just give them a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, I mean, we're, traditional models, everything's marked up. And so it kind of, when you're paying on average, I think, Sam, we saw 88% markup average across the industry, which is just crazy. Part of the reason why I founded Awardco. So yeah, there's a software fee. There's a software application to use the application. And we try to make that, much more affordable. And a ballpark area, just so you know, we like to be around 10%, of your overall budget for a software application fee. But it's fixed, it's set. And the company agrees on that. And they say, okay, this is to run a recognition program, to use an online application, a newer model, and then everything, there's no markups and even potential free shipping solutions that we have. So with our integrations with partners like Amazon. So it's just two ways to look at it. A lot of people are getting just tired of the markup model, because also sometimes they're taxed on it. If it's a spot performance program, and all of a sudden they're taxed on that increase, and that doesn't sit well for the employee. There's just more transparency today. So to me, it's just so important to keep it more simple, to say everything's at cost and there's just a software application fee. And our goal here at Awardco is to make that software application fee so much cheaper than the 88% markup that you're seeing. So It's just easier to control. Just talk a little bit on that.
And something I would add to that is that it just depends on who you want to pay that fee, right? Do you want your employees to pay it every time they redeem? Or do you want the company to pay that up front and know that cost? And again, that's more about Awardco's model. But in general, just as a good theme for you to think about is how are we going to pay for the service we're getting? Is it going to be one at a time, one-offs, or a lump?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think that's probably it. I didn't want to take up all the time today, but I did want to say a hearty thank you to everyone who has been here to listen. We think that these are really great principles that we've seen with our current clients that have really taken their recognition programs to new heights. There are things that you can implement anywhere, anytime, regardless of service or platform or provider. They're just great principles that we feel like can apply to any situation. So thank you for spending your time with us today. We will be making that slide deck available to you. I know we've got that question a few times, and I think that it's already available. And a huge thank you to HR.com for giving us the platform to talk to you today. Steve, did you want to add anything?
Oh, that's it, Sam. Just remember that cultural cycle. You know, it's just that simple. Demonstrate, recognize, and reward. And you do that and make that part of your culture. It's just you're gonna do amazing things with your organization. So appreciate the time, Sam, and Kathy with HR.com for this opportunity.
Fantastic.
Thank you. This concludes our webcast today. I would like to thank our presenters as well as all of you for joining us. If you would like to view this webcast again, the archive recording will be on hr.com shortly, and the slides are there now and they can be downloaded from the site. If you're looking for your webcast credits, they will appear in your hr.com account within 2 business days, and we also send out an email with the credit information. Your feedback is important to us. Please take a moment and fill out the exit survey that will appear on your screen. This concludes our webcast. Enjoy the rest of your day.